Let me ask you a question. Are you on a diet? More importantly, are you on a yo-yo dieting path? The CDC says that more Americans are on diets today than a decade ago. And 97% of these dieters are what we call yo-yo dieters. The most common date to go on one of these yo-yo diets is right around January. Here's what most people don't realize about these yo-yo diets. Right around January 10th, people get this amazing desire to change their lives, and they have very lofty goals, and they sit and they probably write out what looks like the best intentions, right? They say, I want to get in tip-top shape. I want to get back into the gym. I want to start eating right. I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to hire a trainer. I'm going to hire a business coach. I'm going to hire a relationship coach. We want to start all over and we want to do things right. And I believe that we start off with the best intentions for the first week, maybe 2 weeks. But what most people don't realize when they actually engage in any kind of diet is that dieting is not just a physiological thing. In other words, it's not a set of dynamics. It's not a set of instructions. And when you get those instructions right, then all of a sudden you're going to be in the best body ever. If that were true, everyone out there would be fit. We live in a country where most diets, right? The majority of the diets, keto, Atkins, South Beach, Whole30, macro counting, calorie counting, you name it. All of these diets come from the United States. All the gurus are here. You go to Barnes and Nobles, you see the books, you see shelves and shelves and shelves of nutrition books, you see nutrition videos, you see people like me on YouTube, and there's a ton of information out there. So then the question is, why aren't people fit? And the answer to that is because it's not about dynamics. It's not about macro counting, calorie counting, point counting. It's not about getting your food right necessarily. Yeah, sure, that has to happen at some point. But what most people don't realize is that prior to January 10th and prior to having all these lofty goals and all these things you say you're going to do, you are in December. So maybe it's Christmas and you're eating the pastas and the breads and the rice and the desserts and you're spiking a ton of insulin. Now, there's the law of cause and effect. For every cause, there's an effect. So those things you do in December, right, when you're spiking all this insulin, they're affecting your brain. What do I mean by that? Every single time that we do something pleasurable, right, our brain secretes that neuroreceptor called dopamine. Dopamine is in charge of making people addicted to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and of course, food. Food is pleasurable. It's one of the things that we enjoy doing the most. We do it around family, friends, loved ones, and of course, there's a lot of emotional anchors around food. Our brain recognizes that anytime that food is present, something great is about to happen. So boom, you get that hit of dopamine and you get addicted to that particular substance called food. So what we're dealing with here is not just simple dynamics, simple macro counting, calorie counting. We're actually dealing with a dependency, a heavy dependency, very much like drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. I know that's a heavy word and you're like, I can't believe you're taking it there, JT. Or maybe you're thinking, I've never thought of food as an addictive mechanism. My friend, food is one of the most addicting mechanisms out there, hence the reason most of you guys have had such a hard time getting in shape and sticking to a diet. Because you're not just dealing with physiological things, you're actually dealing with a dependency, very much like all those other substances I just mentioned. I'm reminded of someone that came through my gym doors back in Tampa when we had the gyms. And it was a Friday afternoon and he walked through my door, and this was a giant of a man. And he was about 6'5". He walked through the door, he sat across from me with tears in his eyes, and he said, "Can we chat?" And I looked at him and I said, "Man, I really hope this guy is sad and not mad at me for some reason." I said, "Sure, how can I help you?" And he said, "So let me tell you a story." He says, "I have 2 young daughters." He says, "Every night after dinner," he says, I play with them for 10 minutes. He says, "I can't play with them for more than 10 minutes because my ankles, my knees, and my lower back hurt." He says, "Not only do they hurt, it's excruciating pain." He said, "Last night, after we got done playing, my younger daughter, I was taking her to bed. We were going up the stairs and she said, 'Daddy, can you bring me up the stairs like a horsey?'" He said, "JT, I grabbed her, I put her over my shoulders, I tried to go up the first step and I realized I wasn't going up." He said, "I quickly put her down." He said, and she said, "Daddy, why aren't we going up?" He said, "Daddy's too fat. Daddy can't bring you up the stairs." He said with tears in his eyes, he put her to bed and he went in his bedroom and he cried like a baby. And he says he cried like a baby because he felt like he had incarcerated his own body. He had been on many different diets. He had lost weight, gained it back, lost weight, gained it back. He was in this whole yo-yo dieting sort of perpetual chain where he just couldn't break it, right? He felt like he had done everything and he was sick and tired of being sick and tired. This man had made himself a type 2 diabetic. He was hypertensive. He was on high blood pressure medication. His doctor was already talking to him about dialysis because his kidneys weren't functioning right. He was in bad shape. So he said, JT, I went online, I did some research. I see what people are saying about your program. He said, but I wanted to come here and talk to you man to man, face to face, and for you to tell me if you can help me or not. He says, if you can't help me, I need you to let me walk out that door because my life depends on it. Whew. I said, wow. So I turned the question around on him and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, are you committed to this process or are you interested in this process? And he said, what's the difference? And I said, that's a great question. I said, interested means that you're going to do whatever is convenient for you. Committed means that you're going to do whatever is necessary. And he looked at me straight in the eye and he was teary-eyed. He was very emotional. And he said, JT, he said, you better bet I'm committed. He said, this is about my family. It's not about me. He said, I need to leave a legacy for my daughters. He says, I want my daughters to be proud of me. More importantly, I want to be able to walk my daughters down the aisle that they decide to get married. I still get the chills when I talk about this. And in that moment, I felt such a sense of responsibility. And I said, all right, let's do it. And came on board. Exactly 60 days in, I got a phone call from him. And he said, I just want to let you know that I am 42 pounds down so far. He said, but more importantly, my doctor called me today with my blood work. And he said, my type 2 diabetes is in remission. He took me off of blood pressure medication. He says, I haven't been hypertensive in the last month. He says, but more importantly, you need to know that tonight I was able to go up the stairs with my little girl over my shoulders. He said, and the look in my little girl's eyes, he says, I'll never erase from my mind. And I remember just holding back, right? And not wanting to cry right there on the phone. I just congratulated him and I put the phone down. And I remember my sense of excitement for him because he had finally seen light at the end of the tunnel. And so hopefully this is the beginning of that for you, right? That beginning of seeing light at the end of the tunnel and understanding that there is hope, but we need to go at this from the right perspective. And the right perspective is actually dealing with the cognitive processes before we actually get into the dynamics. And this is the missing piece to diets. This is the missing piece to changing your lifestyle. So I want to give you 3 very simple steps. I'm not going to get into details because I'm speaking to a broad audience. And so I just want to keep it very, very simple. And I want to give you some tangible things to start thinking about, not even to do yet, just to start thinking about, because I believe clarity is potential power. I say potential because until you actually put these things into action, it is not power, right? Power is taking action on these things that you're going to hear. So number 1, I believe that you need to go into a period of abstinence. If you talk to any addiction counselor, he will tell you that whether it's drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, or food, there needs to be a period of abstinence. Now, when you hear that, you cringe and you go, wait, does that mean I can't eat? Well, partially. So here's what I propose. If you are a faster, meaning that you fast well, what does that mean? What does it mean, do I fast well? If you can go on a 10, 12, 16, or 22-hour fast and then control what you eat after that, then you're a good faster. If you go on a fast and then you take out a small village, you wipe it out because you're so hungry, then you're not a good faster. And what we need to do is progressively get you into that. Now, please hear me out. You probably hear all the craziness around intermittent fasting and all the benefits. One of the reasons I like fasting, number 1, is because it puts you through a period of abstinence where you actually reset your palate, meaning your taste buds are reset, right? You reset those taste buds. You also reset your brain's reward pathways, meaning that the things that you like so much because you abstain from them, your set point is when you're right here in pleasure, right? And then when you fast, you bring that set point lower, which means that when you go back to foods that are not quote unquote as pleasurable, you still enjoy them because you went through a process of abstinence. I don't know if I'm being clear here, but it's a very powerful way to actually start getting away from the dependencies. Now, please hear me out. This needs to be guided. Hopefully you can get a coach around this. But you want to start fasting and bringing that set point of pleasure down so that when you go back to foods that are going to nourish your body and not put you into a surplus, that you can actually do that well, okay? So you need to go into a process of abstinence from the foods that you like so much: rice, potatoes, beans, pastas, all of these high insulinogenic foods that spike a lot of insulin, secrete a lot of dopamine. Number 2, you want to do the opposite of that. You want to actually go for foods that are low insulinogenic. Now, hear me out. One of the beautiful things about protein, specifically animal protein, because plant-based proteins are absorbed at a different rate. So hear me out if you're a vegetarian or vegan, this is still for you, but I'm just here to say that when you eat protein, right, you don't spike as much insulin as with the other macronutrients. So you can get away with a lot. Once again, you need the right portions, but proteins, right, animal proteins absorb right around a 30-35% absorption rate versus plant-based proteins, which are about a 17% absorption rate. So you can still do plant-based, just know that you're not going to be as satiated as you are with animal proteins. And so if you're a vegan, a vegetarian, there's still ways around this. There's many of those that come onto our program, many vegetarians, vegans that come onto our programs and do amazing. But I'm here to say that the animal protein is just more nourishing because it absorbs at a higher rate. And so protein doesn't spike a lot of insulin. Fibrous carbs like your salads, your vegetables don't spike a lot of insulin. So these are great foods to bring in while you're going into, coming out of this abstinence, right? And so low insulinogenic foods. And lastly, right, we're not just going on these crazy depletion diets where you're depleting your body of all the nutrients. What you're actually doing is you're bringing nutrient-dense foods in. So we are replacing the high insulinogenic foods like rice, potatoes, breads, pastas, beans, lentils, garbanzos, almonds, nuts, seeds. You're like, what am I going to eat? Well, you can eat, as I mentioned, fibers, carbs, proteins, and you want to bring in good fats. Okay? Fats are not the enemy. Sugar is. So what we want to do is we want to bring in good fats. What are good fats? I'm just going to give you my 5 favorite fats. Those are olive oil, coconut oil, avocados. I love avocados. Udo's oil, UDOS oil, Udo's oil, okay, omegas 3, 6, and 9. And then lastly, I like ghee, okay, Ghee, ghee, okay. It's high nutrient density butter. You can put this in your coffee. You probably heard of bullet coffee. There's many ways to utilize ghee, but these are my 5 favorite fats. And if you do this, right, well portioned out based on your height, based on your age, based on your level of activity. This is why you need a coach to do this. Then if you combine all those things together, my friend, you're going to see that for the very first time, your diet is actually going to work. It's going to become a lifestyle. You're going to go get away from the word dieting and actually just become some natural to you. And we've seen many people inside of our programs, including the gentleman that I just shared, who I just shared his testimony with. He's never gone back to those foods. And this was a couch potato. This is a back of the woods type of guy he said it himself. He said, I'm a meat and potatoes type of guy. Not anymore. This guy he's lost 100 pounds at this point, by the way. And he's very happy. He's doing great. He's healthy. He's off of every medication. And the same can be true for you. So my friend, if you resonated with this, if you have questions on these, leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. And if we're not family yet, meaning you're not subscribed to this channel, please do me a favor and do so, because my intention is speaking about things that edify the mind, the body, and the spirit. I want to give you tangible and practical things that you can put into action right away, no fluff, and you can activate these things in your life and see massive returns on investment. My name is JT Tapias, professional fitness life coach with the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you're going to love this one here. Check it out. Talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.